What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Dedicated to the Craft, a podcast by Ballast. Woo! I'm giddy. I'm too excited about this next episode. We sat down, and by we, I mean myself and Lord Chandler. We sat down with Jeff Bradford from Beer, Wine, and Spirits. And if you were throwing a dinner party and you wanted just the most eclectic group of people and the most entertaining group of people at your table, you would invite Colby Chandler and you would invite Jeff Bradford. We talked about it all: traveling the world, drinking for a living, packing everything you own into a knapsack to do it, and the importance of exchanging the information when it comes to the world of booze. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Let's get to it. Oh, that is the ringing of the gong. Yes.
Man, you know what? I'm not gonna lie, guys. I already, about 2 minutes before, I already started that. So
good, man.
Nice.
Let's see
Champagne
what you
of
got.
beers. It's a champagne of beers.
Oh man.
It is. You know, I always tell people, they always ask me what my go-to beers are, right? And I tell them, you know, free and cold are my first two loves. But you know, traveling around and tasting wine, beer, spirits, man, I just need something to just like, my palate doesn't need to respond. It's just like easy drinking. Don't need to think about it. Coors, you know, the High Life is where it's at. Coors Banquet's another one, but yes, sir. So where it's at.
I'm a big Banquet fan for sure.
That's what Colby drinks. That's what Colby drinks when he's not making craft beer. Dude, I have a lot of interesting friends. In this profession, you meet a lot of interesting folks. You are a very interesting person, and I think I'm talking to two of the most interesting people in the booze scene right now. So I'm really happy that your worlds are colliding, and that you were able to jump on the show, because I am very excited to tell your story, or have you tell your story on our show. Jeff Bradford, Beer, Wine, and Spirits, ex-Special Forces, travels the world getting drunk and telling stories of booze makers, wine, cocktail, spirits, beer, chicha, you name it, you're telling the story. And an ambassador for Earn Your Booze. Shout out to Earn Your Booze. Look at that. You're popping out of that shirt.
Trying to, man. Hey, that's what smalls do to you, man. You know what I mean?
We came into contact because we had some cool stuff in the pipeline. You were going to do an episode on beer and food pairing, and COVID just decided to throw them another monkey wrench into that system. So we'll get to all of that later, but really happy to talk to you, man. I think that you are living that Travel Channel life, and it's insane how you went from point A to point B to point C and then to point D. Now, why don't you just kick it off and tell everybody what it is that you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, man, first of all, you did an excellent job for that intro, man. I need you to write up my intros from here on out, Jeff. So I appreciate that, my man. So yeah, you know, I retired from the U.S. Army back in 2017 and was deciding, what do I want to be when I grow up? And, you know, one of the things that crossed my mind was, I didn't want to go to work for anybody else. So that was the number one. That was the first constant. I didn't want to be a number two in a company. I didn't want to be a number three in a company. I wanted to really do something for myself. And so I said, okay. Saved up a bunch of money. I had a passive income, obviously, from the military, and I wrote down a list of my passions. What did I want to do? Travel was that constant. So I knew I wanted, whatever I was going to do, it was going to be with travel. And believe it or not, beer, wine, and spirits was not at the number one of that list. It was probably, I think, number 3 or 4. So, but long story short, tried. If you can imagine, the first thing I tried was actually audio guided tours. So I was in Brussels, I was in Paris, I was in these big cities, and I was trying to come up with these tours, you know, in and around the cities for those mobile apps. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that was the first thing. And I just, you know, I woke up, it was cool, but it wasn't something that I was like really, it was hit home for me. Like I wanted to get up every day and do it. And the next thing I went into was, it's interesting, was tattoos. So I actually was traveling around interviewing tattoo artists, taking pictures, talking to them, a little Q&A. And I actually reached out to a well-known magazine here in the States. And they said, hey, cool, this is a great idea. I did a couple of interviews with some famous tattoo artists around Europe, sent in the writing, and they were like, dude, you are absolutely horrible at writing. Like, I don't see a future. I don't see a future in this for you. So I was like, okay, well, so the next one on the list was beer, wine, and spirits. And the reason why was, when I was traveling Europe, I spent a lot of my career in the military in Europe. And I was always, questioning when I got a bottle of wine, for example, when I was stationed in Italy, or I was in Germany drinking a beer, looking at that beer label, I was wondering who made it and how it was made. And so I came across that and I said, well, hell, I'm in Belgium right now, drinking amazing beer. So, let me reach out and let me, go see about this beer that I'm having right now, which, by the way, was Delirium at the time. So I'm drinking a Delirium and I'm like, you know what, let me reach out to them, see if I can learn something from it and find out who the brewer was, because that was the question that I had. And that's what really kicked it off for me with beer, wine, and spirits. It was originally a blog. I was afraid to be in front of the camera. Look, I was in the military for 20 years. I was shying away from cameras. The last thing I thought of was, hey, I want to stand in front of a video camera and document my journey on that. That was the last thing. But what was interesting was when I went to Delirium, and then all these other breweries started to say yes. I'd go back to people like yourselves, my buddies, and be like, dude, guess what, man? I just met the brewer from Delirium, man. It was so awesome. I learned this. And they were like, well, cool, let's see the story. And like, I go back to my writing with the magazine and tattoos. And they were like, dude, this sucks. You probably need to find another outlet for this. So I contemplated it and I said, you know what? Why not? Why the hell not? You know what I mean? And started to film episodes. Next thing I know, I started to see that, I was actually creatively, there was something there that I can dive deeper into and maybe get better at. And, fast forward 2.5 years, over 12 countries, 80 episodes, over a little over 100,000 people following my journey. Here I am, telling the story of brewers, winemakers, distillers, and learning from them and working with them.
Colby, that sounds a lot like what we're in the business of. Maybe not traveling the world and learning other people's stories, but telling our own. I'm sure that you've been to some of the same spots that Mr. Bradford has gone to. Have you guys been to, both of you have been to Oktoberfest?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I got to join that club. It's not going to be this year, but I saw that you were posting some footage recently, Jeff, about your time at Oktoberfest, and I felt kind of bad for you, and I also felt really happy for you. It's like, wow, how cool that you got to experience that, and you called it a day's work. But then, dang, how crazy that your life consists of travel, and it's kind of come to a halt. So,
yeah,
how has, I mean, it's the elephant in the room. How has COVID kind of changed the way that you do business?
Yeah, well, it's funny. We go, rewind back to March. I'm literally a day from going to London to do an episode of Drink Destinations where I highlight the best bartenders in London. We talk about the bar scene, so on and so forth. And, immediately they were like, stop, halt. Now, mind you, from March until this time frame, I have probably 15 episodes to film. So, I played it month by month. Every time it was canceled, travel restrictions, so on and so forth. So I really talked to my videographers and was like, look, we need to, first thing we need to do is we need to go down to one episode a month. I have, for my planning purposes, I had probably 7-8 episodes shelved, meaning, they were already ready to go. I could put them out each month and still have fresh content. But yeah, it's been tough. I definitely had to pivot. I'm supposed to be in France right now making Armagnac, and we understand what's going on. And so immediately said, okay, how can I continue to tell stories? And it all came domestically. So we looked domestically at, what stories would be interesting, what stories are interesting for me to tell, and that would be interesting for the world to know about. And, we looked at it, and one of my main episodes is whiskey. And I haven't told a whiskey episode in a while. So we looked at it and said, well, the Kentucky whiskey's been told a bunch of times. Tennessee's interesting, but I looked at Texas, and Texas had some interesting stuff going on in whiskey. I jumped on it, started making some phone calls. We started shooting episodes for Texas whiskey. The other thing I looked at was, okay, what across the board I can shoot in terms of wine. And right now we're looking to do some episodes or what is organic, what is sustainability, what does biodynamic mean in the wine industry. So basically what I did is I pivoted. I looked at stories domestically that I found interesting, that would be interesting for the beer, wine, and spirit scene, and immediately pivot towards that, hoping, fingers crossed, that travel restrictions would be able to open back up, to be able to travel, over to Europe. But unfortunately, we are in September, and that just hasn't happened yet. So canceled all the episodes, and we've just pushed that into 2021 and filming everything domestically right now.
Very interesting. Very crazy though.
Dude. I mean, it's one of those things, right? I mean, everybody's feeling, right? So my thing initially was, okay, how do I create fresh content?
Right.
Monthly, and so again, it was like, hey, we have this many in the can. I'm hoping, again, I'm kind of predicting things. I'm saying, hey, I have this many episodes, let me put out one episode a month, and continue that trend. But, again, I'm at the point now where I'm running out of episodes. So we're just having to figure it out. And again, being able to travel domestically, I'm looking at some stuff in Mexico right now. There's some states in Mexico, with that are able to, you're able to travel to Mexico. So just like everybody else, it's just pivoting and continuing on, and not halting and not sitting back waiting for something to happen, right?
Yeah. And look, man, you're the master of being hit with unpredictability and knowing how to navigate through it. So, I mean, there can't be a better guy for the job than kind of the arsenal of tactics and experience that you have in your belt. I do have this question now that I have both of you guys here, because I think it's really fascinating that, Colby, you've done in your career, you've traveled the world as well, more for collaboration. And I'm sure you visited some of the best places to drink in the world too. But I'm going to ask you first, and then I'm going to go to Jeff, because I want to hear both of your different kind of takes on it. But in traveling and drinking around the world and making booze, in your case, around the world, on both of your cases, what are some of the takeaways? What have you learned? And right now, everybody listening to this that can't travel right now, we're kind of all being bit by this travel bug. It's almost like we didn't know that we wanted it, and now that we really want it. So as soon as the floodgates open, I think you're going to have a lot of people wanting to get on that flight, get on that train, get on that cross country thing, and go travel, especially now. But what are some of the big takeaways in your experience, Colby?
Well, first off, I just wanted to kind of remind everybody that Jeff sold all of his stuff in 2018, and apparently he's been around long enough now to buy a whole new set of china. So that was a good first buy, getting back out and not having anything.
Yeah, grandma's china.
Hey, listen, I will tell you something, guys. Like, I still live out of a suitcase. Like, so I'm I am living in Airbnbs. I come up right now. I'm visiting family. So this is, by the way, I'm at a family's house. But story behind with the china is, this was when I was in Italy, stationed in Italy, and I bought a bunch of China, Lennox, I think it was. It was really cheap down there. Like they make in one of the cities, they make all like the Lennox, and it's really cheap, right? They mark it up like 300% in back in the states. And I bought it while I was over there and shipped it back to one of my family members. But
hell of a sales team. They have hell of a sales team.
I'm telling you, right? So, but to be quite honest with you, I'm, everything goes into beer, wine, and spirits, man. I am still a nomad. I'm still living out of a suitcase. Still diving headfirst into the cultures of the beer, wine, and spirits scenes all around the world.
That's part of traveling that you don't hear a lot about in the military. My dad was 20 years in the Navy, and we were stationed all over. And wherever you were, you bought the thing that they were kind of known for, whether it was a bot necklace in Thailand, or you got a suit or some silk in Hong Kong, or so. Yeah, I totally understand the China buy for sure. But the other thing that helped with traveling too, and going back to Jeff's question a little bit, for me was just taste and respect, to be honest. A lot of people that I talked to, whether it was beer or wine or any because when you travel, you're tasting I taste everything that I can that's locally. It's not just beer. And I think that tasting those things, getting different ideas, you can bring back personally into my art of the beer. So getting out and traveling just introduces you to so much more stuff if you're open to it. And then I was always just surprised about the respect that, the brewery got, Ballast Point got. It was one of my funnest things was to have somebody, a brewer from another country give me a beer and go, this is my try on Calico, or this is my try on Sculpin. So it's fun to see them, give us respect just by trying to clone the beer, and just, and hearing their stories about how they bought their first homebrew kit, at Homebrew Mart. And
yeah.
So traveling, is, like I said, growing up as a dependent in the military, it's something I kind of got used to, and it's something that I'm not going to stop anytime soon, unless there's a little virus here and there.
Yeah. They'll get peppered in, but I think we can handle it. Yeah, because it sounds almost cliche at this point, but what you pick up through travel is something that you can't pick up through traveling books or memoirs or poems or Wikipedia. You have to kind of experience because of all the anomalies that happen in real time when you're there. And what's interesting about what you're doing, Jay, is that I'm going to call you JB from here on out, okay? If that's all right. One of the things that you're doing that I find just extremely captivating is that you are telling a story about culture through one of these facets that every single place has in common, which is we like alcoholic beverages, and you're kind of scratching the surface as to why that is. What have you learned? And what have you taken away?
Yeah, it's so crazy, man, because there's so many thoughts running in my head about this and culture. And what I understand is that alcohol represents a little bit different in different cultures. I'm in Belgium. If you can imagine, I'm in Belgium at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and people are having a beer before they get on that plane. And if you were to see that in the United States, you're scratching your head like, what the heck is going on? Like, what are you doing, right?
Just a housewife.
You see this, so that's what's fascinating to me, right? Is the culture of it, and I'll give you an example, like in Germany, right? You're down in Bavaria where lagers, pilsners, right? The home of that. But when you go into the pubs and stuff, you got these long benches that you sit down amongst each other and you share a big moss, you know what I mean? Of beer, of lager, of pilsner. But you travel up to, Cologne, and, they've got this Kolsch beer and this different style and this different pub, in Germany. And, that's, in a 7-ounce glass, completely different than Bavaria, that they're enjoying and they love and that they respect. And oh, by the way, if you don't put a coaster over the top of it, you're going to get keep getting fed that, right? And so again, it's the same country, but it's two completely different ways of understanding how to drink beer in the same country, So for me, that's what's exciting. And, when I set out to do beer, wine, and spirits, that was something that I couldn't get in a textbook, right? Hey, I knew when I got out of the military, I wanted to learn more about this. There was a lot of schools to go to. And you know what I said? I said, what better way to learn than from, the Colbys out there, the Jeffs out there, the Brewers out there. They're the guys that, know it. And that's how I said, I want to learn. I want to learn by doing, because now, which, I'm going through the brewing school in San Diego, when they're talking about stuff, I can totally relate it based off of learning from guys like you, as opposed to what the social norm is of just going to school and learning in a book,
right.
That way. So I took a totally different approach on it when I first started that. And my thing was, I just added the video component of it and wanted to share that with the rest of the world. My first foremost was to learn about beer, wine, and spirits, and tell it and bring people closer to the product. Because again, everybody sees a shelf full of beer, and sees all these different styles, but really what goes into that? And what I know is there's a lot of people swirling the glass. There's a lot of people tasting it, but there's not a lot of people going out there showing behind the scenes, getting their hands dirty and saying, you know what, this is how a Kolsch is made. This is how an IPA is made. This is how a lager is made in these different countries that deal with their different circumstances, their different customs and courtesies. So, and that's what I really, really find fascinating with, with traveling the world.
I think that you're right. I think that once you start telling a story through some of these different components that everybody has in common, it's never politics, it's never religion, but it's typically something that you consume, right? It's a good bread, it's a good casseroles, a pasta, or an alcohol. And the fact that you've taken it upon yourself to kind of travel the world, and you're doing the heavy lifting, man. You're the one shoving it all into a little knapsack and saying, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell the stories about this beautiful thing that is alcohol, right? That it is booze. And there's no denying that it's changed us fundamentally. I mean, you're talking to two guys who built a career off it, but oh, look at that. Look, Colby is definitely here. We're getting past beer.
I'm out of beer.
We're getting past beer, and we're going to go straight into wine.
I like it.
And I'm going to join him too. But anyways, that was my sentiment, but I don't care. Wine always interrupts everything. Listen, I'm going to pour a little bit of Valle de Guadalupe El Aceto, baby. I got it out of the cellar just because you were going to be on the show, dude. Because
good for you, man. Good
listen,
for you.
Dude, you tell an amazing story. I know Colby's been watching your episodes too. You have a way of editing your videos. I mean, you got so many subscribers now, dude. Your How to Make Tequila episode, it has 1.1 million views. Yeah. I mean, like people are interested, and you would think that the story was out there already, but it's not, and you're telling it. Boom.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I, by the way, guys, am cheers and love that you guys went over. Wow, I was not prepared, but yes, I am prepared.
It looks like you were prepared.
So
it's pretty prepared.
I am actually drinking a Pinot Noir from Willamette Valley in Oregon. So there's a couple. If you like Pinot, if you're listening out there, you like Pinot. Oregon's making some fabulous stuff, but in California, Santa Rita Hills. And by the way, that Cabernet is phenomenal.
Yeah, so they make big stuff.
Colby just showed it to the camera. What is it called?
I'm drinking some Mount Veeder. So it's actually a Mount Veeder Cab 2016. Opened it last night. It was huge. Man, I couldn't open it up enough. So
I was going to say that's a big bold one, man. It's it's awesome. It's definitely, if you like cabs, that's definitely the brand to go with. So yeah.
Well, so I guess it's kind of cool that we're transitioning. Go ahead, Colby.
Well, I was just going to comment on the episodes a little bit too. What I like about it is the fact that you seem like a good listener. You know, you're kind of I feel like you know the story that you want to tell, but you kind of let the people tell the story. You know, you don't get in the way too much. You know, there's not a lot of hype. It's right to the point. You know what I mean? Even if you don't know anything about the product that you're doing the video on, it's still, you know, educational. It's not too over, you know, anybody's head. You know, I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but you know, it was very approachable. You know.
Thank you. You know, and especially coming from you, Colby, that means a lot, you know, and, you know, that's the difficult aspect of this, finding the balance of technical and storytelling, right? Because, you know, there's a lot of information that I get hit with. And for, you know, most people, I'm there to learn. So like you guys are, you know, you're right there with me learning in the tequila episode or, you know, majority of these episodes, you know, I do my research, I do my due diligence, but I'm also a student in that, right? I'm not everybody that knows that I started this journey, I'm not an expert. I'm not someone that knows about any of this stuff, you know? And that's that's why I want people to come on this journey, because I feel there's a lot of other people like me that love their Cabernet Sauvignons, you know, the Pinot Noirs, the beers, you know, and they just, that's all they know is just the name, but they don't know anything more than that. They see Ballast Point, but then they're like, okay. And if I can give them like who is brewing it, what it looks like, when you're trying that beer, can you imagine now you're trying Ballast Point, you see one of my episodes and it brings you a little bit closer to that product. And that's what I'm trying to achieve, whether it's general, right? And we're just talking about Pinot Noir, or we're just talking about IPAs or, you know, so on and so forth. You know, people could still get a better connection because of that. And here's the thing, you know, when I look at it and say, look, I started 2.5 years ago, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I remember the first episode I did, and my videographer looked at me and said, okay, how do you want to film this? And I said, I don't know, to be quite honest with you. I didn't, you know, I'm used to jumping out of airplanes, shooting guns and blowing shit up. You know what I mean? I don't know. And so I had to really quickly understand, you know, and Google and search scripts and shot lists and stuff like that to help my videographer, to film this properly. But, you know, and so I don't, you know, I look back and say, you know, man, you know, I've learned so much in the 2.5 years, and I'm just barely scratching the surface on you know, what's, you know, how I want to produce, direct these episodes and tell the story, but still, you know, provide technical information to people. So, you know, they can go and share that, you know, with their buds and friends and family.
Do you have a favorite show that you watch, or, you know, that you're kind of inspired by as far as alcohol encompassing?
Yeah, I watch them all. I'm a student so I watch them all. I check out a bunch of different shows. I watch, you know, one of the things that I'm watching right now that I draw inspiration from is Chef's Table. I just love how that's put together. I think it's absolutely amazing on how they tell their stories. But more importantly, you know, I try to dive into my own creative outlet, you know, so I watch a lot of Anthony Bourdain stuff, you know, just because, not to try to emulate him. I don't think you can emulate him in the way his ability to tell a story, you know, and really bring you into that moment, into that culture. But I just look at him and what he does and say, wow, that's just amazing what he does. You know, his audio over stuff, you know, the little, you know, behind the scenes stuff that I see, you know, that the B-roll shots, those are the things that I'm studying. Mike Rowe is a big fan of mine, right?
I love that guy.
I'm a big hands-on guy, right? That was one of the things I was like, I'm learning and I want to be hands-on. So, you know, I don't just want to talk about it when I'm in tequila. I want to be chopping the agave, you know, I don't want to be just talking about it. I want to tell the people how the work was. And this is hard work. This is difficult work. So looking at Mike Rowe, you know, and saying, man, this guy did this for so many seasons. You know, I watched him. So, those are the shows right now that, especially Chef's Table right now and what they're doing and what they're putting out on Netflix. I just really love what they're doing.
Coming from somebody that's been interviewed quite a few times over the past 23 years at Ballast Point, I think one of the things that makes me comfortable with your show is that I'm not embarrassed for the people you're interviewing. You know what I mean?
Right,
you give them the respect. You, like you said, you get in there and do the dirty work, but I'm not cringing. Like some shows, I'm just cringing. Like, oh my God, is this what I'm going to have to sit through here? It's just, I can't take it. Where it was effortless, the way that you see the things and put it together,
Yeah, you can definitely see the disconnect in those shows that you're talking about, Colby, where you go like, you don't know what's going on still. You don't know what this is. Like you have no idea what they're doing. And it can tell, and you can tell through this interview. And I agree with Colby 100%. The fact that you kind of get your hands dirty and then you actually go through the processes. I know that you're doing it just because that's what you do. You're that kind of guy. You're the one that doesn't want, you're not sitting on the sidelines and watching everybody else do the work. But what it actually does as a beneficial side effect is that it makes your storytelling better because the relatability is just so apparent.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate, especially coming from you guys. What people don't realize or don't see is, the cameras are filming for a certain amount of time. Once they shut off, I'm still working. The wine episodes that you see, during harvest and through all that, like I'm there for 2 weeks. I'm learning because at the end of the day, that's what I want to, show the viewer is, look, I'm bringing you on this journey to teach you more about beer, wine, and spirits, but 5 years, 10 years from now, there's incremental growth in that. And I want people to trust me and say, what this guy says, what this guy does, in the terms of beer, wine, and spirits, they can trust me in that because they know that I've been there, I've done that. I'm hands-on, and that's what I'm about. I'm about learning the whole aspect of the beer, wine, and spirits making process of it all, it's, I always look at it and say, look, I'm going through classes too. I'm going through the beer making program at San Diego, UC San Diego. I'm getting ready to go to Harrod & Watt over in Edinburgh to learn about distilling. I'm on the UC Davis winemaking program online. So the proficiency, I'm learning on that aspect. But again, it's hard, it's hard to be a critic and say, what, I don't think Jeff Bradford knows what he's talking about when, looking fast forward 4 or 5 years from now, I've been to 60 different countries. I've worked with X amount of brewers, X amount of, distillers and winemakers, to tell me that, I am wrong or I don't know what I'm talking about. And that's putting trust not only in the people that I'm working with you guys in the industry, but it's also putting trust in the consumers to say, what, I'm going to follow this dude because he's doing right. He is, I followed his journey since day one, and that was his ethos. It's right. Learning by doing. I'm starting off right now. I'm not asking very many questions. 5 years from now, the segments and what I'm talking about is going to be completely different. There's an evolution to that. And I feel that when people are coming to watch me and they can go back and look at all my episodes, and it's almost like a educational show, like 101, 201, 3, you know what I mean? Like colleges, right? And they're seeing the development, not only in myself, but they can also get development too, across the board in beer, wine, spirits.
Yeah. Yeah. Your show has all of these different angles that I think make it what the beautiful piece of art that it is. Your editing is phenomenal, visually captivating. You are primarily on a virtual platform, so you really do catch the eye. I mean, the camera work that you and your team have is great. But what you also have, and what you were kind of alluding to, is that you understand that you have this childlike wonder and your audience. And I think what most people are tuning into is to listen to you teach them what they know that you may or may not know, but what you you like what Colby was saying earlier, you kind of know the direction of your show. So you don't interrupt, or you don't kind of put your own spin on things or finish sentences for anybody. You are very much just, hey, here's my question, which I'm sure 50,000 people have. Go ahead and answer it like if they were answering it for 50,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, thank you so much for that. And it's funny because I am my own worst critic, and I look back and I say, man, I think what people, when they watch my show, is they say, this guy's not perfect. He stumbles on words every now and then, right? He's like, he's not scripted. And that's the thing that I really want to put onto my viewers is that's the case. I don't want to come into Ballast Point Brewery showing me shaking hands with Colby and Jeff Lozano, right? It's scripted. I want it to be as natural as possible. I want to be asking the questions that I have, from, the night before I went to that distillery. I don't like the scripted aspect of it, and again, it goes back to like what you were talking about is I'm hungry to learn about it all and share it with the world.
I got a tough question. I'm always curious to hear from people that highlight places. What they're feeling is it's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes, whereas you're highlighting it to, give them more opportunity. You're highlighting it to give me more opportunity to go there. But sometimes that changes the place. You know what I mean? Sometimes what, you're highlighting kind of gets lost sometimes. Do you ever think about that when you decide to go to places, or how you add it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I will tell you, the funny thing is, and this is going to sound crazy, but if you notice, the show's called Beer, Wine, and Spirits. The show's not called Jeff Bradford, Beer, Wine, and Spirits, or Jeff Bradford's journey around the world, blah, blah, blah. I've said from the moment that I started the show that it's not about me. The stars of the show are the breweries, the wineries, the distilleries, the brewers, whoever we're highlighting. So on the back end, on the editing side of it, I make a very conscious effort to ensure that they are the stars. And I'm just a guide in this all, and a lot of people in the industry might say, wow, you're probably doing this wrong. But that has been with my videography and with my team. It's always been the case. And I've always said that from day one is, look, I'm learning. I'm taking their time. The most valuable thing is they're giving me their time to teach me. And in return, I'm telling their story. They're the stars of the show. So, to be quite honest with you, I make a very conscious effort to ensure that they're the stars and I'm just the guide.
I know a couple of people here in San Diego that purposely don't do any kind of videos or any kind of interviews or anything like that, just so they can kind of keep it the way it is. So,
right.
You know what I mean? Do you have
feeling.
people tell you no, like they don't want you to film their place because of that?
No. So here's the crazy thing is I have that's what's great about having my own channel is I have complete creative control, so, I'm going in, and before I'm doing the logistics, I'm doing the scheduling, I'm doing it all
right
to ensure that they're signing up and they're going to tell the right story and tell the story that I am trying to bring out, for the viewers, for the people around the world, if that answers your question, if that makes sense. But I have complete control. So anybody that signs up, that I'm telling the story of, that's what they signed up to do.
They're not gonna sign up unless that's what they want to.
They want that publicity.
The question was more, have you called somebody and they're like, no, we're gonna pass.
So it took for the first 6 months. It was that. It was
that was everybody.
It was, who the hell are you? What are you trying to do? You want to do what? And it was very tough. It was very, very tough in the beginning to do that. And I will tell you, the only reason, look, I was able to film Oktoberfest with Hofbrau with, I think I only had maybe 600 subscribers on YouTube. And the only reason why they said yes to me is because of what I produced as a product.
Right.
Other than that, they said, you know what? We would have said no because we could afford to get whoever we want to tell our story and bring in here. We could bring in a person that has 10,000, 100,000, 200,000 people that can branch out our story better than you can. But the reason why they were able to sell that was because of my product and again my storytelling ability. So
yeah, and it's very apparent that you kind of tell everybody's story the right way because you let them tell their own story, which is kind of cool. I am going to go ahead and go on to the spirits portion of this show, and yeah, Colby with some High West.
Oh God, I'm unprepared. It's so weird.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, where? Yeah, look at that. All right, I'm gonna go and pour a little nice bottle of Bullet Bourbon, a gift from my neighbor. He moved to Texas.
So this is if you watch my brandy episode in Croatia, Rakia, this is the stuff that I actually made. So
sure.
Yeah, so this stuff, I mean,
winner
plums. I mean,
right,
I was able to proof it down. And it's absolutely phenomenal. It just keeps getting better and better. So,
Jeff, cheers, baby. Cheers, dude. Cheers to you. Cheers to everything that you've done, dude. Listen, here's another hard question. Have you ever wanted to quit?
It's funny because here I am, an Army guy, right? 20 years, my values and principles, never quit. 5 years in combat, it's instilled into me, right? Never quit. And when I started the journey of beer, wine, and spirits, I gave myself 3 years. I said, I saved money. I said, hey, I've got enough, capital to be able to do this for 3 years without, receiving any money. So I was like, I'm good. And it's funny because about 10 months into this beer, wine, and spirits, I throw all that stuff that I just said out the window. Former Army guy getting ready to quit. Can you imagine? I'm spending a lot of money traveling, putting together these episodes creatively. I'm racking my brain and going to all these spots. I'm thinking these are the best episodes in the world. I can't wait to launch these episodes. And I get my mom and my brother, a few of my friends, maybe 100 views. And I get a subscriber too, and it was demoralizing. I mean, I think when you're creative, that's what you want. You create a beer, you want it to, want people to buy, you want people to enjoy it. You want to hear good reviews. And that's what I was yearning for. And I wasn't receiving that. Month 1, month 2, I created an awesome episode. Here I am in Iceland. I'm like, this is going to be it. It wasn't it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe let me go to Switzerland and talk about a whiskey trek, right? That sounds cool. Everybody's telling me that sounds cool. I put my creative into it, my all into it, the same results. And around month 10, I'm sitting if you can imagine, I'm sitting in Croatia, beautiful beach. And I'm thinking to myself, am I good enough? Because obviously the results are not good enough. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I spending all this money? I'm a 20-year military guy. That's what I know. I don't know anything about beer, wine, and spirits. Maybe I'm not good enough. I don't know videography. I don't know how to edit and produce. You can see in my mind, this is what I'm having those back and forth conversations about in a pretty beautiful spot like Croatia. And I'm thinking to myself, Jeff, you don't need to be doing this. You don't. You're getting critiqued about audio. You're not getting the results. You could just be traveling the world, enjoying life. You just got out of the military. Go find yourself a job that can relate to your experience, make 6 figures, do your thing. Month 10, man, I felt like quitting. And I will tell you something, looking back, I can understand why a lot of people in this life can start something and they want to quit based off of that. And I am thankful, because looking 10 months, I'm 2.5 years into this and what I have achieved, but I held on for 3 or 4 more months, and the tequila episode and 2 other episodes popped. And all of a sudden I'm getting all these views, and all these people and all the like people following me now. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if month 10, if I would have quit based off of not getting any, I would have never known this small success that I'm feeling right now. And it was so, I always tell people, if you're going to get into something like this, starting something new, whether it's a brewery or a niche like what I'm doing, you got to learn how to suffer, and you got to give yourself a little bit more time, because you're closer. If you give up, which I tell people never give up, but if you do give up, you don't know in a month or 2 months, what's on the other end of that. Just like myself, in 3 months, 4 months after that, a few videos popped, and all of a sudden, people are seeing what I'm doing.
I love you, dude. You are encompassing something that I think a lot of people think. I think a lot of people have the fear of failure, and it should be a fear, and it should be a little suffering chapter of your life. But you're doing phenomenal work, and you're doing it out of the mere passion that you have for it. And I think that more people need to know that it's all right. Like, it's not going to happen in 10 months. It might not happen in 5 years. But if you really truly care about what you're doing and you believe in what you're doing, you'll either go to sleep knowing that you followed your passion, or you'll go to sleep knowing that it was successful. And sometimes it's both, and hopefully it's both. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I love talking to you, man, because vicariously I get through a lot of stuff when I thinking about that ethos. Like, oh, dude,
it's funny, Jeff, because I always say what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. And here I was initially fearful of the camera, and I didn't want. If you were to ask me 3 years ago if I was going to be in front of a camera telling the story of beer, wine, and spirits, I was like, you're freaking crazy. I'm an introverted person. I didn't know what social media was. Obviously, being in the military, 2.5 years ago, I had to learn all that too. But I look back right now on all the decisions, even in the military, stuff that I was fearful of, right? Going into combat, stuff like that. And those are the best things that happened in my life. Those are the things that I'm most proud of in my life, and I tell people, like, if you're fearful to put out that video or to do that thing you want to do, I would say, look, build up the courage to do it, and at least look at my story. And because I was the guy that was raising my hand saying, I'm never going to do that. And now, slowly but surely, in incremental steps, I'm getting a little bit more comfortable in front of the camera. I look back at my episodes in the year 1 and I say, those were crap. When I thought those at that time were the best things that ever happened. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm setting a new baseline, a new standard, a new best. And I think that's what we all do, whether it's, making beer or what we're doing in our jobs and our day-to-day lives, right? And I just feel like, if I would have quit, if I would have went off and did something else, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys today. I wouldn't have known the growth. I wouldn't have met the people that I met. And believe it or not, I would have given up a passion that I still would have had passion for. You see what I mean? Because I love beer, wine, and spirits. I love when I drink this wine, I drink this, I was drinking that. I want to know more about it, and that's the thing for me that really intrigues me. When I'm traveling around and I taste something, I'm like, what is this? Who's making this? I want to know this person, and if I would have given up on that, what would my life would have been? And if I'm sitting on my deathbed, I would have looked back and, regret, right? Regret would have set in big time.
The one guy that didn't give up was the guy that made seltzers recently.
I don't know if we should thank him or not.
That's a good lead into my next question is, I remember in the early 90s drinking Zima, right? Zima. We were drinking a lot of Woodbridge, White Zinfandel. We were drinking a lot of Steinlager and the Bats Blue and St. Pauli Girl. And now we're drinking seltzer, rosé, and craft lagers. So humans are pretty cyclical in that way. Where do you think we're going next if, you kind of look at it that way?
Yeah, it's funny because, I was in Europe and I would have thought, 3 years ago, and gin was the thing. And I'm looking over at the US saying, when is this gin thing going to kick off? And it never did. So your guess is as good as mine. We're seeing right now, monitoring trends a little bit. Obviously we're seeing tequila pick up, across the board. Mezcal. Mezcal. I think it's funny in craft beer, as I traveled to different continents, in Belgium, for example, a couple of years back, the IPA was getting introduced over there, and they're used to drinking doubles and triples. They don't really like that bitterness, but they're starting to come around to it, and starting to open up their mind. I was in South Africa where they're used to the lagers and the pilsners, right? It's a hotter area over there, and you're bringing in these different flavored beers, and a lot has to do with just the education of it all. So, it's your guess is as good as mine. I follow the trends too as well, to see, but just like who would have thought sour beers and Berliner Weisses, I was in San Diego and I'm seeing a bunch of those, kicking off. So
I have this friend that's kind of, I don't know.
It always starts with, I have this friend.
There's something wrong with him. He travels around and he tries to find the worst possible alcohol he can find. Ooh, whether it's a wine or mostly it's a spirit, some sort of weird spirit, and then he gets it and he brings it back and he gives it to you like, you're gonna hate this. You know what I mean? This is horrible. Here, try it. You're just like, oh my God, and you have to do it. You know what I mean? Is there something? Do you have that just worst alcohol moment? Where you're just like,
that's the thing is I'm a proponent of beer, wine, and spirits. I don't like to talk negatively about it. If it's something negative that I don't talk about it at all. But I will tell you, there's this. We all know Jägermeister. We all know these digestives. They're big in Europe, and man, I remember trying. I was in Austria. I think it's Stroll's, and it's like motor oil, man. And I tried it, and I was like, oh man. We'll have to put a picture up. I don't know how you're ready to team.
Oh yeah, you just sent it. We'll show everybody that's watching.
Dude, I was just like, oh my God, I
stay
tried
away from this.
All right. Well, I got to get some of that for my friend then.
Yeah.
I got to make him. I got to get it back to him a little bit.
It's a good white elephant gift. Is it worse than Malort?
Dude, it's like I said. You could have put Castrol. You could probably put it in an engine and it'll run.
Malort's not that bad. Malort's
no offense, Chicago. I thought it was horrible. No offense, Chicago. And
after the 20th time, it's okay. It's just okay. After the 20th time, maybe.
Oh man, hey, good. So go ahead, pick up a bottle at your local Bevmo, order it. Hey, if you have any other nasty alcohol suggestions when this episode gets posted, I would love to see that in the comments, man. Let's find the nastiest, most aggressive, disgusting alcohol that we can and develop a palate. So Jeff, Colby, I think we're at the end of the show, but before we go, I just want to say thank you, man. Not just for telling the story of beer, wine, and spirits, for everything that you've done in your military career, everything that you're doing to educate people in this world of everything is just a Wikipedia search away, and there's so much more substance to telling a story of a great beer, wine, or spirit than just saying, hey, here's the story and here's the history. And you're doing exactly that. Your show is amazing. Beer, wine, and spirits. I want to direct everybody to also click on your drink destinations. I know we really didn't touch on drink destinations, but it's awesome kind of side thing that you're doing underneath the beer, wine, and spirits umbrella where you're going to these cities and you're kind of doing this like layover thing where you kind of tell everybody, hey, you're going to be in town for a little bit. Here are the best bars. Here are the best places to swing by and drink.
Yeah. It's funny. We talk about COVID. I've had a lot of time to look at my episodes and say, okay, what direction I'm going to go when the floodgates open up. In terms of beer, I'm going to be, instead of talking about breweries specifically, I'm going to talk about beer styles. So the first 2 episodes, I'm going to be talking about Flanders Red Ale, right? The Rodenbach, the families over there. But we're going to go over there and talk about the history. I'm going to show how it's made. We're going to talk about more of that. Next episode I'm working on right now. I've been every day putting in the work, finding out the best Kolsch places. I want to talk about the beer style. I want to talk about Kolsch. I want to talk about the history. I want to talk about, it's got its own appellation, right? And it's absolutely phenomenal. It's got its own glass. It's phenomenal. I want to tell the story of that beer style and stouts. So in terms of beer per se, I'm going to be going into more of beer styles, highlighting multiple breweries and getting my hands dirty and making each of those products. Obviously, that's not going to go away. And doing more of that with liquor and, with spirits and with wine too as well.
I can't wait till you do the Ballast Point episode with Colby and I, because I think that it's going to be an awesome one. And I'm really looking forward to kind of picking up where we left off before this pesky pandemic kind of came into the scene. Yeah. So real quick before we sign off, where can people watch your videos? Where can they follow you? And anything else that you want to plug, dude?
Yeah, no. So just to go back to the episode of how you and I met, I really, when I got to San Diego, one of the things I thought about was when I sat at a restaurant and I'm here in the beer capital of the United States. My opinion, I got it. And I'm thinking to myself, why isn't there a craft beer and food menu? I look at it and say, is craft beer, and that the question was, is craft beer suitable for fine dining? And so that was the question. So I started reaching out to people, and that's how you and I met. And that's what we were going to do an episode on, is talk about that issue, because I don't, and I know we can go on and on about that. That's a whole other topic. You could bring in your chefs.
What we're going to have an episode on,
but that was the episode you and I were going to do. We were going to have that. Obviously, we're going to have a dinner in May too, as well. I remember all that. And that's another topic I can't wait to dive into, because I believe craft beer can also be, talked about in the fine dining space too as well. But yeah, people could find me on YouTube, Beer, Wine, and Spirits. Please let me know how I'm doing. Send those comments. Instagram, you could follow my daily. Usually, I'm really good at updating my daily, what I'm doing daily on there. Beer_wine_spirits. And those are the two main platforms. You can go to Facebook and search Jeff Bradford Beer, Wine, and Spirits too as well. Catch some videos over there, what I'm doing.
You're one of the raddest dudes I know, and so is Colby. So right now we're going to do a end of the episode cheers. But in light of your name, one of us has to have a beer, one of us has to have a wine, and one of us has to have a spirit. Let's see, what do you got?
Can I do all three?
Colby's going to do all three. Ah, there you go. The mixologist himself. All right, you got spirit, you got wine. I'm going to do Kolsch. I mean,
we definitely need to cheers to craft beer deserving a place at the table.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And we will. And that will happen.
It's the best beverage with food.
It's just as complex, just as varied, and here's my question is why haven't we as a society, you guys are doing a great job with the beer and food pairings, but why isn't we as a society, why haven't chefs come about and said, hey, we could put these beers to pair with our menu? And I want to know why, because craft beer's been around a long time.
We need your help, Jeff Bradford.
I'm on it, guys.
I've done 500 dinners. I've done 500 beer dinners. I've done my share. So
I think, Colby, you just show up. Yeah,
you guys are it.
Guys, I just really want to say, Colby, respect in what you've created. You're exactly why I started Beer, Wine, and Spirits. Jeff Lozano, your story from starting off, from the bottom, now you're here. That, my friend, this is why I got into beer, wine, and spirits and telling stories is because of guys like you. So respect. I'm literally honored to be talking to you guys. Thank you guys for
Thanks again for your service.
Yeah, thanks.
We wouldn't have been doing it without you. So
exactly. Jeff Bradford, Beer, Wine, and Spirits. You are a lovely gentleman. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
All right, guys. That was amazing. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the rest of our episodes on Ballast Point's YouTube page, channel, whatever. You can follow us on ballastpoint.com, Instagram, Facebook, all that jam. I'll see you next time, and thanks for tuning in.